Hello, welcome back to the channel of nonsense. I'm going to start my review of the Volkswagen Touareg by saying I think it's one of the most underrated cars Volkswagen currently makes. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's the car you're getting for the money. And yes, the money isn't cheap for a Volkswagen, as we'll get onto in a minute. But the platform that underpins the Touareg is quite fancy. It's used in things like the Porsche Cayenne, Bentley Bentayga, and the Lamborghini Urus. When you peel it back, that is fundamentally what this is, albeit with slightly different engines and suspension components and whatnot. And it's not designed to be a sporty car. It's designed to be a relaxing family SUV. And back in 2020, during the dark COVID years, I actually lived with a Touareg for 6-7 months. I spec'd it from Volkswagen. It was brown, it had a V6 petrol, and it had lots of fancy options such as rear wheel steering and 48-volt active anti-roll bars. And I went to Germany in it. I did 160 miles an hour with the family in it, and it was imperious. But I did a video of that car in the early days of the YouTube channel when I didn't really know anything about audio quality. So don't go and watch that. It's a terrible video. You can't hear me. This is my canonical review of the new facelifted Volkswagen Touareg. So yeah, I'm going to show you why I think it's a bit of a dark horse. Let's go. Now, if you go onto Volkswagen's UK website and look at the price for Touareg, you'd probably call me crazy for telling you this car's actually quite good, because it's £68,000 for an entry-level one. This kind of mid to top spec black edition is about 70, this one's 73, with a couple of options on it, which is obviously a hell of a lot of money for a Volkswagen. But it is kind of good value in a weird way because, and Volkswagen won't like me for telling you this, they depreciate like a stone. The one I had back in 2020, I spec'd to £75,000 with that rear wheel steer and the 48-volt active anti-roll bars. And it also had the V6 petrol, as I've said, and the brown paint. That car, after I handed it back after 6 months with about 8,000 miles on it, went for sale for £50,000. It lost 25 grand's worth of value in the first 6 months. And I think secondhand, these do make really, really good buys, perhaps just not new. But anyway, let's look at the amount of car you're getting for the money, because it is a lot, quite literally. Well, it is quite literally a lot of car for the money. The Touareg is 4.9 meters long, making it the same size as a BMW X5 or Porsche Cayenne. And yes, BMW and Porsche are big names for a plucky Volkswagen to take on, but it has quite a lot of kit as standard, especially this black edition. It comes with air suspension as standard, which you can raise or lower. And you can also get it with rear wheel steering for an extra grand, which isn't too much. And it is a really good option because it means parallel parking a big long car like this becomes a lot easier with a shorter wheelbase. It doesn't turn it into a GT3 RS, but that's not what it's about. This one's got an optional tow bar. It can tow 3.5 tons on a brake trailer, and the whole thing weighs 2.1 tons, which is about par for the course for an SUV of this size, or me after the Christmas I've had and the amount of Toblerones I've had put in my mouth. Now that's all sounding like a big grown-up car. Well, it is, and the engines are as well. There are no weedy 4-cylinder 2-litre engines like in the Volvo XC90. They're all 3-litre V6s. There are 2 diesels with a 230 horsepower or 283 horsepower. That's this one. All as a petrol with 340 horsepower. And then there's a couple of plug-in hybrids, which are quite clever and new because they can do about 60 miles on a charge, and that's part of the new facelifted Touareg. Now there is the R as well, which has got 460 horsepower. It is a plug-in hybrid. It's like the Cayenne S hybrid. It's not very sporty, it's just fast. I wouldn't bother. I would get this higher power diesel. That's the Tim Rohde choice because it's got torque and it's very relaxed but still very fast, but not as thirsty as the petrol, which only gets 22 mpg. This gets 34 without even trying. Now, this was facelifted at the back end of 2023 and it got slightly new looks. The big deal really was new headlights. They're called HD Matrix headlights. They're all new for Volkswagen. They're very excited. It's new flagship headlight technology. They've got 19,000 LEDs in each headlight, so it can do a much more precise job of masking out oncoming cars from your main beam. And it says it creates a carpet of light to drive upon, or rather Volkswagen says that. They're just very good and they're standard on all trim levels of the facelifted Touareg. Only got big wheels as well, 20-inch standard, 21s on this black edition. Like Chere's bum, there have been some cosmetic changes here as well. Chere doesn't have a light bar, but the Touareg does, and because it's a black edition, it says Touareg in black writing, so everyone just thinks you're driving a slightly bigger Tiguan. The best bit I can't show you, annoyingly, because the Lord has blessed me with sunlight for the first time in 3 years here in the UK, but this actually lights up red at night when you unlock the car, and it looks really, really cool. I saw it this morning. I forgot to take a photo, sorry. You'll just have to make do with whatever photos I'm throwing up on the screen now, but it looks a bit cyberpunk. The boot space is phenomenal. It's about 810 litres, and it's a huge handy space, and it's got masses of underfloor storage where there's no spare wheel, just gunk. And you can fold the rear seats down using handy levers at the sides. Now, handily, you get a reversing camera as standard on the entry-level version. All other versions get a surround view camera, which is really handy when you're parking this. And because this has got the tow bar, you can press buttons here to swing your ball out. And you can also raise and lower the boot if you've got one with air suspension. So yeah, oh, there we go. Look, oh, it's there. How lovely. 3.5 tons you can stick on that. I could probably just about tow myself on my lunch. Chinese buffet in a trailer. That'd be quite nice. Crispy chili beef Touareg machine. I'll put it away. Put your knob away in the lay-by, roadie. Hang on. Go on. That's not going, is it? Do I need to kick it? Oh no, there we go. Just took a while. Oh, getting old. Take a while to get it out, take a while to put it away. The rear seat space in the Volkswagen Touareg is really quite good. It's a bit of a step up, so if you've got elderly relatives, you'll want to lower the air suspension probably first if they've got mobility issues. But I'm fine, loads of knee room, loads of headroom, even with the massive panoramic sunroof. And the seat backs are kind of nice and reclined, and you can lie them back even further. So yeah, it's very capacious. There's a small hump in the middle for your middle seat passenger, but the middle seat is nice and wide. And I've got a little fold down thing here with 2 USB-Cs and a cigarette lighter on it. And I've also got climate controls for the back seats, and you can pay extra to have heated outer rear back seats. Rear back seats, heated outer rear seats. Also, the door bins are massive, and they're lined with felt, which you don't often get in the back of a car. So yeah, back here is really quite good. No 7-seat option though. If you want that, get an XC90 or something similar. Right, the Touareg's cabin. It looked really futuristic when it first came out. I think it was 2017, this version of the Touareg, because it had this massive screen. But when I lived with one of these, I realised that massive screen couldn't actually do much. I don't think those cars even had CarPlay or Android Auto from memory. It does now, and it's wireless, and you can use a wireless charging mat down there to charge your phone while you're using it. However, I don't think the charging mat is very well ventilated, because my iPhone actually overheated and stopped working when I was driving this car on the motorway earlier. I've not had that happen for about 3 years. So yeah, do be careful about charging your phone and using it wirelessly in this as well. But otherwise, you've got a slightly new steering wheel with the dreaded Volkswagen haptic buttons. I'm kind of used to them. I will allow it now. Handily, this one has a heated steering wheel, which is very nice, and the heated front seats are standard in all Touaregs. You've also got a big 12-inch digital dashboard as standard there, which can show you your maps, your MPG and all the rest of it. The seats are really comfy. You can upgrade them to massage seats, though this one doesn't have them. You've got a few storage places such as cup holders there, and under here, it's actually surprisingly shallow under here, but you've got a couple of USB-Cs there in the bowels of the Touareg. The glove box is quite big, and you've got this big air vent across the dashboard there. So yeah, it's quite a nice airy cabin. It does feel high-tech, but perhaps not as nice as something like that nice Genesis. What is it, the GV80? And also the X5 is going to feel a bit more special in here. It is still Volkswagen-y in here. It's just high-end Volkswagen. Oh yeah, if you're wondering, these knobs here, there's one on the right is for all your driving modes, so you've got your sport, your comfort and everything else, and this one is for the ride height control because it's on air suspension. And these can actually go pretty decently off-road as well if you need to tow a horse box across a field or something like that. These headrests slide back and forth as well, I think. There we go. So all in all, the Touareg looks impressive and feels impressive inside. I really like the technology, and it feels reasonably posh in here. It certainly would compete quite nicely with an Audi Q7, frankly. It's just got less fluffy Alcantara, which is fine because it's not a sports car. But how does the Touareg drive? Let's head out on the road and find out. Right, we're going for a drive in the Touareg now, and I have to say, it's not going to feel like a Porsche Cayenne. It doesn't have the sportiness, nor does it have the extreme luxury feel of a Bentayga. It's kind of just feels posher than you would think, but not ludicrously comfortable or ludicrously sporty. It's it is comfortable if you come from something like, I'd say a BMW X5 isn't as comfy as this. This one has got air suspension fitted, and it's doing a remarkably good job of ironing out bumps. That bong is gonna get on my nerves though. Anyway, yeah, it's a very comfortable car by and large, and I have to say, I think they fixed a lot of the chassis problems that I experienced on my pre-facelift one of these. Now, that had the 48-volt active anti-roll bars, it had four-wheel steering, it had loads of chassis bits that most people don't really spec on their Touaregs, and it had all of them. And it didn't really know what to do with itself. When you came to a corner a bit too quickly, not even that quickly, a roundabout, it would frankly shit itself. It would lock the brakes on the outside as if it thought it was going to roll over. This one doesn't do that. And I think this is quite boring and techie. Part of the reason is this new facelifted one has something called a roof load sensor. So it knows how much weight is on the roof of the car. Now, why does that impact the handling, you might say? Well, when they tune the stability control for cars, they have to kind of presume that you're going to have been an idiot and stuck an elephant worth of stuff in a top box on the roof, and therefore the car might be more likely to roll over when you drive quickly. This one knows that you don't have that, and it relaxes the stability control a bit. So you can drive this quickly, and it does grip and go much, much better than the pre-facelift version. I didn't think I would notice that, but you do. And yeah, if you do stick a top box on, it will then know, it will detect the weight, and it will tighten up the stability control a bit. But anyway, that's boring to talk about. The boring day-to-day stuff that you do in this car is pretty good. On a tight British road, it does feel a little bit wide, and if a Range Rover comes the other way on a narrow country road, you're going to have a bit of a, stare each other down and go in the hedge, but mostly it's okay. Visibility out all round is pretty decent, and in this mid to top spec one, you've got a 360-degree camera as well. So parking it is actually really easy, and it's got a very intelligent automatic parking system as well. You have to hold this button down. Oh no, they've moved it. It's on the screen. You have to hold the button up here to self-park it. But yeah, the steering is reasonably light. It goes where you want it to. This one doesn't have four-wheel steer, and I do miss that. The four-wheel steering is one of the best options that you can get on the Touareg, and it's only about an extra 800 quid, I think, which feels like a bit of a bargain. Go on, off you go. Sportage. You don't have four-wheel steering either, but four-wheel steering means you can get in and out of parking spaces with less faff than you might think, considering it's nearly 5 meters long. So how does it go then, the Touareg? Well, the V6 diesel with 283 horsepower, it's pretty blooming rapid. You're really feeling the 600 Newton meters of torque taking you off down the road. Look, I've kind of got an excuse to launch it a bit here. The gearbox takes a little while to kick down, but then it sorts itself out, and you really do go, and you can fly. The petrol version's got more horsepower. Oh, stop bonging. 340 horsepower in the petrol version, less torque though. And you do have to work that engine surprisingly hard. It is quick, but you have to rev it out, and then it's very thirsty. I used to get 21 mpg out of the petrol version of this. This diesel, I'm getting 34 without even really trying. And I have to say, this diesel V6 is my favorite engine. I've driven the Touareg R, the previous generation of this. It's a plug-in hybrid with 462 horsepower, and it's quick. It's 5.1 to 60, but it doesn't feel like an R, and it doesn't really feel particularly special. So I would just get the V6 diesel. You can tow 3.5 tons and be very happy. It feels like a grown-up car. It doesn't feel like a sports car. It's decently comfortable. It's pretty big, and I like it a lot, to be honest, for pottering about, and they've fixed the annoying flaws about, you know, locking on the brakes when you do a roundabout a bit too fast and things like that. It doesn't seem to have quite as hyperactive automatic emergency braking as it used to either. It used to jam on the brakes given it any rabbits or anything you're reversing into. So yeah, well done Volkswagen. I think the Touareg has become the car it should have been. Just get the diesel one. But anyway, let's go back to me in a lay-by for an outro, because I've spoken way too much. Right, well done if you've made it this far in a very long video. Time to conclude on the Touareg. It is updated. It is slightly more high-tech. It's got the things it needed that it didn't used to have, such as the wireless Apple CarPlay and just CarPlay in general. The interior still feels nice. It still feels posh. It still feels like you're getting your money's worth. I think the new headlights are very cool. Undoubtedly, they're really good, but probably quite expensive if you break one of these, and possibly a bit unnecessary. But hey, Volkswagen had to give the Touareg something new to make it stand out. Does it stand out though? I don't see many of these about, and I think it's because it's got the age-old Touareg problem. It is a halo product for Volkswagen, but that means it's expensive. That means people are looking at things like Porsches and, you know, Audis and nice German things that aren't Volkswagen. But I think on the second-hand market, these are a really, really good buy. If you want a big family SUV, there's got loads of room for big 2-week jaunts to the continent. If you want to go skiing and you want to drive there, stick a roof box on it and you've got a massive boot and more space than you know what to do with on the roof. And it's got that new roof load sensor so it won't fall over. But yeah, it's very, very good. It's very imperious and it makes you feel good about yourself. It's perhaps just a bit too under the radar for the money, but you might like that. So yeah, I'm going to give it 7.5 to 8 Tim Roadies out of 10. It is really good family car. It's just perhaps not quite special enough for the money. A bit like me, but I didn't cost anything, unless you pay YouTube Premium. That's the review over. I want you to go down to the comments and leave me the German word for 19,000 LED air balloons, which are maybe red. Like this video if it's been useful. As ever, please subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty more reviews coming up this year. And I'll see you next time. I've been Tim, that's been the Touareg. Und tschüss und auf Wiedersehen und essen mein Po. Don't do that. It's naughty. Even in Germany, even in the Berghain. Maybe not in the Berghain.